good morning, and, I always say it's a beautiful Saturday morning. This time, I darn well mean it. It is a beautiful Saturday morning.
It sure is. And, gorgeous out there.
Well, Ken, we're 1st of May. Isn't that wonderful? The 1st of May. And so here we are, 2021, show number 1794. We're getting up close to that 1800. Well, first of all, just as we do every Saturday morning, let's do the tips and plants of the week.
You betcha.
My tip of the week is waiting for the music, but that's okay. It's a good time right now to spray your grapes with lime sulfur and dormant oil.
Yep.
Just when they're showing the little buddies there, the little fuzzy buddies, right?
Yeah.
I find that most effective to do it at this point in time. And it's a great way of helping to control your mildew and leafhopper. My plant of the week is the Amelanchier ulnifolia, the Saskatoon, or commonly known in the States, because they don't know what Saskatoon is.
Right.
It's called a serviceberry down there.
Yeah.
And that's my plant of the week.
Well, that's pretty cool. You have a native plant. I also have a native plant, so stay tuned. My tip of the week is that time to start water conservation now. It's important to notice and to just be aware that at this time of year, irrigation systems are being turned on, but it doesn't mean we need to go full blast. It's still quite cool, even though our day temperatures are sometimes up to 20 degrees Celsius. It's still not like the summertime. We just need to give them one good soaking per week, and that should be adequate to keep the plants happy, especially any of the established gardens and lawns. That should be adequate. So just be aware of that. Start now, and let's prepare and save the water for the summertime when we really need it. All right, my plant of the week this week is a native plant, and that's a Dodecatheon media. And this is the shooting star, and it's a beautiful little pink flowered plant that shoots up from a little bunch of leaves at the ground level and produces these beautiful little pink shooting star-like flowers. And it's quite a lovely plant, and you do find them quite readily throughout the entire Okanagan, in particular more even in the South Okanagan. But there you go. It's a great plant. It's cool, but do not touch plants in the wild. Always learn the plant, figure it out, and then try to source them through your local garden center rather than taking them from the wild. That's my tips and plants for this week. Remember to check growercoach.com.
Way to go, Ken. I lost my Dodecatheon. Had it for years, and it was an interesting plant because it would just kind of shrivel up in the summer.
Yep. Go dormant
and come back in the spring like crazy. But last year, it didn't come through. But at 5, 6, 7 years, every year it was beautiful. Yeah. Hard to say what happened.
Pretty good. They really don't like a lot of water, and that's kind of an interesting thing. Is that in the springtime they're okay if it's moist, but once it gets summer, they just like to dry out a bit. And I think that's what happens with a lot of these native to Okanagan plants is that they, they're used to going dormant in the summer, just like that, and they'll just shrivel up and say, see you in the spring, which makes sense. But anyway, yeah, very cool. It's really neat to explore some of the native plants, but never take them out of the wild. That's the rule.
Ken, I did something this morning that I only do once a year, and that is on the first Saturday of May, which is today.
Yeah.
Naked Gardening Day.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Took a selfie of me in the garden without my robe on. I'm not showing anyone because it's not a pleasant thing to look at. But anyway.
Well, we're all naked under our clothes, right?
Yeah. Not pleasant at all. Makes me want to lose some more weight. Anyway, the days are getting longer, Ken.
Yep.
They are getting longer. Today is 13 hours and 55 minutes long. It's almost 14 hours long.
Nice.
Darn close to 14 hours. It's much longer. It's 6 hours and 38 minutes longer than the shortest day on December 22nd. Longest day will be on June 22nd, and it'll be 16 hours and 21 minutes long. So we got another hour and a half to go before we're at our longest day.
Yeah, it's still nice. Nice to get up early and see the sun out, and the air is fresh. I love the smell of the air at this time of year. It's just sweet and wonderful. It's full of all kinds of fragrances, and it's just beautiful. In the evenings, stretching out, I'm usually early to bed, and it's a little weird going to bed when it's light out, but hey, it's the way she goes.
It was a welcome rain the other day. Welcome rain.
Yeah, it wasn't quite enough, but we'll take it, and we might even get a little bit more tonight or later this afternoon if we're lucky. And let's hope for some rain. It's been unbelievably dry. Like it's I think we're without a decent series of rainfalls. I don't even know when the last time it actually snowed or rained, but it must have been back in February at some point.
It's been a dry one.
Yeah,
and it's serious because the forests are definitely dry.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that people have to be very, very careful out there in the forest. Well, we're going to open the phone lines, 250-862-2525 to get through to us today on the AM 1150 Garden Show. We're here every Saturday morning from 8 o'clock till 10 o'clock, and you can hear us and listen to us online if you're out of town on a Saturday morning and you missed the Garden Show. You just Google it or go into AM 1150 and press listen. I have it all keyed up on my phone all the time. Not that I'm listening, but when I'm not here, I definitely listen to Ken. And when Ken's not there, I would hope he listens to me. So
there's always interesting things going on AM 1150. It's the talk radio is always interesting, and
lots of
and the hockey games are back. The Rockets games on each night. They didn't do so well last night, but that's the way it goes. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. It's just nice to see the young fellows out there learning and advancing and practicing.
Well, we've got some callers, Ken, and I think we've got a minute before we take that first break. And Ariel is on the line. Good morning, Ariel.
Oh, gosh, a minute? That's all I've got?
Oh, that's all you got, Ariel.
Okay, so the bird was a red crossbill. That's what Dan said.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Okay, so the next thing I have for you is a question. I want to move some bulbs like tulips and daffodils and little grape hyacinths. When and what and how? Do you just dig them up and let them dry out, or do you just leave them in the ground? I mean, because if you leave them in the ground, they disappear,
That's right. So you could mark them and then dig them at the proper time in July.
Oh, in July.
That's when bulbs are harvested for commercial use, and then they are cooled down, dried out, and are not dried out, but put in storage, and then they're sold in the fall to gardeners. Now, you can, if you want to move them, though, Ariel, you can move them now fairly successfully. If dig down and try and get the bulb out intact and a little bit of root and soil with it. And then you can transplant it to another spot. They're pretty resilient. We used to do that all the time.
It's just that they're fragile because they're brittle. Yeah. Their little stems are very they're crispy and they tend to snap real easily. But if you dig out a big shovel full of grape hyacinths and just move it from point A to point B, give it a good watering, and typically they'll kind of look rough for a couple days, and then they'll perk up again, and away they go.
Okay, so that would be okay to do it right now, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you could do it now, sure.
It's better to do it later. It's better to wait until
to do it later.
It's better because you want to
once they're dormant.
Yeah, when the foliage starts deteriorating, it's done its job to replenish the bulb for next year. It's better to wait till then to dig them up, but you can dig them up.
So would you, Don? Would you dig them up and just let them dry out like?
No.
You would.
You want to dig them up and put them in their final resting place.
Okay, so it's July. The end of July, the middle, or the beginning? Any
time in July.
Oh, you're so
5 o'clock, July 14th in the afternoon, 5 in the afternoon.
Okay.
Okay, Ariel.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye. And we're going to take that short break. We've got Betty Ann waiting for us. And please, Betty Ann, hang on. Be patient, because we'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden. We are back with you on a sunny Saturday morning. It's just a gorgeous day out there. I look up on the hills. There's not a speck of snow. And Ken, it's just fabulous right now. I do my weather check, my temperature check every morning. It hasn't frozen since the 12th of April, something like that.
Yeah,
in my yard anyway.
And it's not looking like it's going to freeze for a while. But See how it goes.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good. Betty Ann, thank you for waiting. We appreciate your call.
Yes, thank you very much, guys. Okay, I've got a tree question for you. About 10 years ago when we arrived in the Okanagan, we live in West Kelowna, we bought a showy mountain ash, beautiful, beautiful, 8 feet. Never did thrive after that first year. We've got a very rocky backyard. I could have, 2 millimeters below where I dug, there could be just rock. I'm not sure. But the last couple of years, there's been a really healthy-looking sucker come up. Last year, the main plant, or main tree, had quite a few berries and then nothing. So I thought, okay, that was its last hurrah. And the kids are taking over. And so my question is, should I be cutting down the old parent? I kind of hate to. I'm thinking maybe it's just moral support for the little guy, but I am bound and determined to see if this new sprout will take hold, and it's certainly a better bet than the parent at this point.
Yeah, it's probably the rootstock.
Yep.
So it won't be the actual showy mountain ash, but it would be a different mountain ash, but it's still a mountain ash.
Yep.
And it should be fine and healthy. It's growing on its own roots, so it's bypassed the old tree. And you're right.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right that you will likely have to cut off the old tree.
Okay.
Just because the whatever there was wrong with that, it could have been a problem during the grafting process, that there was some disease that set into that right where it was grafted on, and that bud union, or I guess I don't know what you would call it, but the graft union, that point just for whatever reason just didn't really take. The only other thing with the mountain ash is also the depth at which they're planted. They need to be planted very shallow, so we should always see the root flare above the ground level.
Oh, great.
And sometimes they're buried too deep. It almost looks like a fence post going into the ground, and then it just takes a long, long time for the tree to become established.
Okay.
And so the rockiness underneath is fine because, these mountain ash, not so much the European mountain ashes, but all the other mountain ashes, they're okay with the tough conditions. And what they don't like is being too wet or soggy roots.
They have no fear with me. I'm a real water miser when it comes to that. And that makes me feel good. So maybe I don't have to feel guilty about killing her in the beginning.
No, but you've got patience. So that's the wonderful thing, is you've waited long enough, and now the thing is just said, okay, that's it. I'm bypassing this old tree, and away it goes. And if you remove the old one, that thing will just grow like incredibly.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Should I give it one of those little, I got a tree and shrub spike. Should I don't really.
It's not really needed.
No?
Not really necessary. A little bit of compost around them is nice, and that's about all
Got
they
it,
need.
but not cover anything too deep so the roots are.
That's right. I always stay away from the trunk when I put mulch down. I make like a donut shape just around the tree.
Okay, got it. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it a lot.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for the call, Betty Ann. We appreciate it.
Yeah, bye-bye.
And now we're going to Dennis. Good morning, Dennis.
Morning, guys.
Good morning.
I've got 2 questions for you. One involves an indoor plant of mine, and the other outdoor. Starting inside, I've got an areca palm that is got some little brown things on the stem, and the leaves look like they're, been sprayed with oil or something.
Yeah, sticky.
I'd like to treat it because it's a nice plant.
Yeah.
But
if it's worthwhile, if it's a worthwhile plant, to save, like if it's in decent shape, you've had it a long time, you want to save it, you could, I guess. What you've got is scale, Dennis, and it's a tough one to deal with. Scale.
Okay.
It's a tough one to deal with. It comes in, there's different forms. The brown scale that you see there, underneath that you'll see eggs, and then of course they hatch into tiny crawlers, and they come crawling out, crawl over, and then lay eggs and do their thing. I don't know the exact morphology of these things, but on the other hand, I know that scale is tough to deal with. We have had success using horticultural oil, the real horticultural, the Wilson's horticultural oil. It's a refined oil, and a couple of tablespoons in a gallon of water, and spray with that. Got that hint from Brian Minter many, many years ago.
And probably take it outside to do that.
Take it outside. It's just mineral oil, but it might mess your carpets up or something.
Yeah, no, okay, I'll do that outside. So you just spray that on, and then you leave that for Well, I'll just follow the directions, I suppose.
Well, there's no directions on that for that indoor stuff. The oil is often used as an outdoor dormant oil kind of thing. But I've sprayed lots of plants, lots of tropicals with mineral oil, the refined one, the Wilson's one, and with no phytotoxicity, and with fairly decent success. But I mean, it's really
just takes more than one spray. You have to do about every 7 days for generally about 3 or 4 sprays just to have success. So, like, if you set it up, say, like, I'm going to do this on a Sunday afternoon because I have the day off. I'm going to take it outside, give it a spray, let it drip dry, keep it in a shady spot, and let it dry up. Bring it back in the next Sunday, do it again. And then what happens is, just in case there's multiple hatchings of these little crawler guys, that Don was mentioning there, the little crawlers come out, and then you want to kill those. They die real easily from this horticultural oil, and then but they do rehatch once in a while, and especially indoors, we don't really know when that's going to happen. So I would do it over about a 4-week period, and then at that point, you should have good control.
Okay, well, I'll give that a shot. The second question I have is outside, and I've got a couple of big ponderosa pine trees, and in there's some like a dogwood and some wild roses and some Oregon grape, and they all are indigenous, so they do really well. And I tried to put in in that shady area a couple of rhododendrons last year, and even though I dug out and put some good garden soil in there, they didn't make it. So what I need is something that's going to be like a hardy, good flowering shrub that likes, or plant that likes shade. And I just want a tip on what might work in there.
There's a lot of competition there from those pines. If you're planting in the root zone of the pines, there's a lot of competition. So you have to really baby the plant that you put in there, no matter what it is. The rhododendrons may have just felt themselves out-competed,
Yeah, and they're very finicky about their soil conditions, and they need acid conditions. And even though we're underneath a pine, there's still not acid enough for rhododendrons. It's not even acid, actually. But they need acid conditions and shady locations and cool, moist. Yeah. So I would look at something different. Potentially some of the viburnum families are good. The spice viburnum is a beautiful shrub. Very fragrant, sort of early season blooming, and that's a pretty tough plant. Also, some of the hydrangeas can work as well. The newer varieties, there's quite a selection of hydrangeas, but I wouldn't be going with like the full moisture varieties. I would be going with the drier, loving types, like the PG hydrangea family and the Annabelle hydrangea family, which are both at least moderately drought tolerant, and they would be fine there. So partial shade, filtered sun, and the thing that happens, there's another factor with ponderosa pines is that it's not just that there's root competition. It's and they're a big tree typically, but anyway, those needles when they drop, they give off a bit of a chemical that some plants really don't like. It's a type of allelopathy and allelopathy. It's kind of hard to say, but anyway, what it does is it literally acts as a bit of an anti-competition thing for the trees, and some plants just can't stand living underneath the pines. So, Oregon grape, they can live under pines, and you found that those native dogwoods, like the Cornus sericias, they live underneath the dogwoods. There's certain ones that will do it. I would just say that you might have to try, a few different types of these plants and see which ones do better than others, and as a bit of a trial program.
And possibly don't rely just on your regular irrigation. You might want to babysit them for the first little while till they get some roots established, because the roots aren't spread out when you first plant the tree, and so the only water it gets is right at the plant. So you've got to sort of babysit for a while.
Okay, well, great advice, guys. I appreciate it, and you both have a great day.
You too, Dennis. Thanks for the call.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling. Bye-bye.
Now, Amber, are we going to go take a break, or we're going to take a short break? And we've got we've got we got Ethel. Ethel is waiting for us. Ethel, be patient. We'll be back with you, and when we come back with more AM 1150. Yes, we are. We are here. Don Burnett and Ken Salvail are here to answer your gardening questions. Always enjoy hearing from everyone. We're going to talk to Ethel first, and then we're going to go to Dan Bruce. So, Ethel, good morning.
Good morning, fellows.
Good morning.
I have oriental poppies. I have the beautiful orange, and I also have pink. Now, about a month ago, they started pushing the ground up, 2 or 3 inches, and of course I didn't pay much attention to them, but the two areas are doing great, but this one, about 2 weeks ago, I looked at them, and they're green, but they're close to the ground, like they're just like falling over, didn't grow up, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So I took my hand and muffed them around, and all full of dust came out of them, and I had watered them, and then I watered them again, so now I don't know what to do with them. They're not growing like the others are at all.
Yeah, something's going on underground. They are plants that typically grow, with or without water. They're very, very durable. I've got some growing that I've really never watered, and I've actually tried to get rid of them, and I can't even get rid of them. They just keep growing back. So what happens is they have this real fleshy root, and they always grow back from the root. But sometimes they might get either a grub in the root or sometimes a rodent, like a pocket gopher or something, could get in underneath them. Yeah, and they kind of chew on the roots a bit, and then the plant struggles, and it'll push a bit and then stall, and then kind of not really do much, and then push and then stall. So it's not really happy. And so, I highly doubt that the thing would ever die. Because I can't seem to kill
But will
things.
it bloom, though, this year?
As long as it can develop sort of a core central stem, it will produce at least 1 or 2 flowers. But it all depends on how much of the root has been damaged. But if, let's say that you do get just a little bit of foliage this year and you don't get any blooms, but the following year, chances are the thing would actually root in and become another robust plant and bloom like crazy next year. So, just unfortunately, there's something that's gone on with that root. And
so don't get rid of it just yet.
Well, you might want to take a little dig around there and see what's going on, because if the root is rotting, or if the root is being attacked by a grub, possibly weevils or that sort of thing. But it's not, like Ken said, something's going on down below to cause the top to be doing what it's doing. So you may want to dig around and see if you can find that out.
Okay, but lilies of the valley right beside it are doing beautifully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
and I have sage that's doing...
Yeah, different
Lily
species.
of the Valley is super poisonous, right? So I don't know if anything will eat that.
Anything would poison them.
Yeah.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
Okay, so just keep an eye on it. And...
just kind of monitor it, and leaving it there is not going to hurt anything. So just see what happens. Yep.
Sure. Okay, great.
Okay,
Thanks so much.
Thanks for the call.
Have a good day.
Good
Bye.
luck. Bye-bye.
Now, Dan Bruce is on the line. And first of all, Dan, I want to know, did you get my turkey pictures?
I did. I was just having trouble deciding which one of these two things was Cuddles.
Cuddles. I'll tell you, what a turkey that was. Some folks across the lake, when we were doing a little consult for them, they have turkeys and chickens. They got 2 turkeys. They got a male and a female turkey. Cuddles, of course, is the male. And he's called Cuddles because he literally will sneak his head right up underneath the owner's chin, and she just, Cuddles, and she go, and if she calls him Cuddles, he goes, gobble, 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 gobble. It's really quite interesting. 5 years old, this turkey is.
Wow.
Never seen the oven. Never. and it won't.
Nope.
Anyway, I thought you'd get a kick out of it. Quite the color on the facial features, right?
Yes. You can do a good imitation with. There's some really bizarre makeup colors out there.
Yeah. Well, when he gets excited, she said, all that blue that you see in his skin on his head, all that blue is when he's excited. He turns blue a little bit when he gets all excited.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Anyway, Dan, what have you got up your sleeve today for us?
Well, You wanted to know about the hummingbird situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we've had several questions on that.
Well, as usual this year, I put the first hummingbird feeder up on the 1st of April. And as usual, well, I say usual, as exactly the same date over the last 3 years, the first hummingbird showed up on the 14th.
Mm.
Now there are, I would say, maybe 30 to 35 birds around here. Rufous, calliopes, and at least one black-chinned.
Mm.
So, yeah, they are definitely back.
Hmm.
And the trick, of course, with feeding them is to, if you decide to do it, make the commitment, because if you let the feeders go dry, they will remember that, and they will certainly come by, but they won't rely on your feeding station. They will classify it as unreliable.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Now, can you just fill me in on how the little nesting one did last year? That was outside your window.
Right outside the window, one hummingbird built a nest on the line of Christmas lights, and that one raised 2 young, which disappeared, as they all do. And then I would expect, because it's believed that quite often the bird will return and reuse the same nest, but not necessarily always. So the Christmas lights have been untouched.
And just one more thing on hummingbirds, Dan. I saw online a person saying that do not feed your hummingbirds honey or brown sugar or anything, just plain white sugar, because something happens to their tongue or something. Is that for real?
Well, I think that is good advice. I use plain white refined Rogers sugar.
And you're not sponsored by Rogers. No.
I'm not sponsored by Rogers. No, I don't even know their first name.
Yeah.
But I don't add anything to it at all. I don't add any food coloring, which is quite unnecessary. And that's it. I certainly don't give them honey. And
okay.
Having grown up in Jamaica, I know things about brown sugar that make me use white sugar.
Okay. Well, we won't go there. Oh, by the way, the first name to the Rogers is Roy. But anyway, carry on with what your topic was today.
That just deserves a horse laugh.
Yeah.
At Fintry, we have a late Victorian Edwardian lady's hat ornament made out of the skin and feathers of a bird of paradise. Quite a spectacular thing. And at that time, the absolute height of fashion.
Yes. How old would that be?
Oh, it's probably 1900 to 1900 something.
Okay.
Not difficult, impossible to date exactly.
Yeah.
The bird of paradise, all the birds of paradise are from New Guinea and surrounding areas and the very northern tip of Australia. In South Africa, there is a plant, a relative of the bananas, Strelitzia.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the common name for that is bird of paradise, because of the shape of the flower. Somewhat resembles the one of the birds of paradise species. And the name honors the wife of King George III.
Oh, Strelitzia?
Strelitzia, is in honor of Sophia Charlotte, Princess of Mecklenburg-Strelitz.
Oh.
Who was born in 1744, and at some point when she was young and attractive, caught the eye of King Prince George and became Queen of England. She apparently was no physical beauty, but she certainly had a sharp wit. Kept old George in line. Corresponded a great deal with Marie Antoinette, the unfortunate Queen of France. But Queen Charlotte was one of the founding sort of figures of Kew Gardens.
Oh.
She had a strong interest in botany, and so we owe quite a lot of the development of Kew to her. And around the world, there have been a remarkable number of features named in her honor. 3 other places in BC, some in New Zealand, one in Malaysia, and the royal family of Tonga in the middle of the Pacific have chosen the family name Salote.
Charlotte. Oh, wow.
Salote, which is the Tongan pronunciation of Charlotte.
Of Charlotte. So you can say, thanks, Charlotte. Anyway.
Don, you're so sharp, you cut yourself.
I'm sharp today. Look at Dan, we're going to have to break off.
So,
what an interesting story.
That is the connection between the birds of New Guinea, South African plants, and Haida Gwaii.
Haida Gwaii, that's right.
That is
Dan,
so cool.
You're a giant. We appreciate the input today, and we will see you again, God willing, next week.
God willing, and the creek don't rise.
Okay. Take care, buddy.
Okay.
Right. Yep.
Thanks, Dan. Take care.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Okay, on that note,
interesting. Yeah, there you
very
go.
interesting. Always interesting stuff.
Should have got the scientific name for the bird of paradise before he hung up there.
Oh yeah. Well,
Next time.
Maybe he can email it to me, and I'll give it to you.
Try and pronounce it.
That's right. 250-862-2525 to get through to us. We got 15 more minutes left on the Garden Show, and we're going to say goodbye until we come back with more AM 1150 Garden. We are back, and we have Maureen joining us. Thank you for calling, Maureen.
Oh, hello there. We have a brand new lawn from last year, just was 1 year old, and our dogs have put a little damage here and there with their urine. And so just wondering, what is the best way to repair that? You know how there's little circles of damage?
I know. I got them in my lawn. Now my lawn is much better this year because Doggy has moved out. But
he's moved out, okay.
Yeah, she's moved out. Along, with everybody else that had the dog.
Yeah.
But whatever. Here's a couple of things. They don't pee all day, right? You kind of know when they're going to go out and have a pee.
Yeah.
So if you see where they just did their thing, then go out and pour some water on that. It dilutes it, and it'll stop any problem, right?
We definitely do that. We just are right there, on them. And
you're still having issues, eh?
Yeah.
There's
so
another.
It could be, I think what might have happened, is it possible that it was damaged when they were out there in the wintertime?
Absolutely.
Okay. I think that might have been.
In fact, that's more of an issue in the wintertime than it is in the summer, because in the wintertime, you're not watering. In the summertime, you're watering, and so you sort of dilute it. Yeah. There is a thing called, how old a dog is it?
We've got a 7-year-old and a 13-year-old.
Okay, so you got a couple of dogs. There's a thing that seemed to work, but it takes some training, and it's called a pee post. You can actually buy it at Buckerfield's. It's called a pee post.
Okay.
And if you can find a spot in behind the workshop or in behind the garage or in behind somewhere where you don't mind them going and having a pee,
right?
then you can put this pea post there, and when you take them outside, and you obviously they're going to go out, and the first thing we want to do is pee on the lawn, right?
Right.
Direct them to the pea post, and they sniff it, and it's something attracting them there that will say, "Oh, I'll keep coming back. This is a good place to, do."
Okay, well, that sounds really, really good.
Yeah, and then there's also the rocks that you can buy to put in the water.
I've heard of those.
And that seems to take the ammonia or whatever it is out of the urine,
Yeah.
So those are a couple of things. And I had a lot of damage last year because we had the 2 dogs there, and I had a lot of damage. It was actually depressing to see the damage on my lawn because I got a very small lawn.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so this year I've scratched up those areas. The toxins will have gone now.
Okay.
Because it doesn't take that long to leach them through with watering and irrigation and whatnot.
Yeah.
So the toxins are gone. So I've scratched those areas up, put some seed down, and covered it with a layer actually of old potting soil that I had from my containers last year, and I used that as mostly peat moss, of course, but that gives it a nice seed bed, and that will come back nicely as long as the dogs don't come back.
So, are you saying do you think I should use peat moss and potting soil, or just peat moss?
Well, potting soil is predominantly peat moss anyway.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Okay.
You can use straight peat moss. It's just that I've got a big pile of soil left over from containers. I don't throw it out.
Me too.
I
use it.
Keep it.
Mm-hmm. Good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, so we just had Googled it, and we didn't know if we had to put lime on the lawns. We didn't know anything about that. So I'd heard that sometimes you have to put lime on to neutralize it. But I think this damage was done over the winter.
Yeah. Well, very likely.
Yeah, and our soils here are pretty much made of lime already.
Okay.
So, whether
Don't
that
need to add
actually
any more.
works or not, is a bit of a question mark.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think those rocks, maybe they're available at Buckerfield's too then.
They are, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your help.
You're very welcome. Thank you for the call.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good luck.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Thanks for calling.
Yeah, the old dog issues, eh?
Yep. You bet. And patching lawns, that's a good topic, actually. We could expand on that a bit more, too. Mm-hmm. Whenever you do have patches and, getting the seed to germinate, it's just, having moisture over a period of about maybe 5 to 10 days, fairly consistently through the heat of the day. In the middle of the day, that's when it's most important. At night, doesn't matter because it's cool. Mm-hmm. But those seeds need to germinate, and they just need to take on the water. And as soon as they get plump and they're just starting to pop, then you're way to the races at that point. And that's where you're actually mixing it. You can mix the seed right with that potting soil. And then when you put it down, it adds that nice little bedding. It really helps to keep the seed moist and out of the sun. But remember that you can use your old friend, the potato sack, you can buy it in the rolls, actually, at garden centers. Yeah, you bet. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and of course that works really well to protect the seed and keep the air from moving around, and it keeps it moist. You can water straight through it, and of course the burlap has the little gaps and spaces, so light goes right through it, and it keeps the birds off. And as soon as you see the little grass blades poking through the burlap, then you know it's time to remove it, and then that means your seed is germinated and it's good to go.
That's a great idea, Ken. I think that I've been on golf courses where, how you have the little sand thing.
Yeah.
I've seen golf courses with seed mixed in with the sand.
Yes. Yeah.
So when you put a little sand in your divot, the seed's right there, and bingo.
Yep.
There you go.
Works.
So,
perfect.
Yeah, mixing it. What I did with my cover to just help it a little bit, I mixed some bedding sand with the potting soil. So it was half sand, half potting soil. Yeah. And that gives it a little bit of weight, too, as well.
Yeah, holds it all together. Yeah, that works really well. And it's a key with I think, lawn seed is that it needs to be nestled in the soil, but we're very close to the surface.
Yeah, very, very shallow. Yep.
Yeah, you bet.
Well, we're getting close to our big break, and we do have a rip-roaring section of Garden Show coming up, another hour from 9 to 10. We're here every Saturday morning to answer your gardening questions. It's a beautiful time of the year. Things are popping. I've got stuff growing like crazy. And I've taken all my tropicals and succulents out of the greenhouse now. They're on their shelves and looking happy. They are happy. Mm-hmm. The only ones I've kept in the greenhouse are some that are struggling that I need to kind of get back on track. But otherwise, everything is outside and enjoying itself. I've kept my orchids inside right now, but pretty soon they'll go out too. Mm-hmm. Enjoying the yard as it is, and it's like a jungle. You go out there now in the backyard under that pergola and just stare at the wall of plants. It's a wall of plants. But gorgeous. I'm going to do something special this year, I think, Ken. Mm-hmm. I'm going to rearrange my shelves so that they're such that I can accommodate taller plants and shorter plants and whatnot. But I'm going to set up a set of shelves on my shop, against my shop.
Say that 10 times fast.
What's that?
I can't even say it once.
Yeah.
Set up a set of shelves in your shop.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I just said that, didn't I? Mm. Anyway, but I'm going to have that my Sansevieria section.
Oh,
so all the Sansevierias are there. Mm-hmm. And then I'll have a place where Haworthias are there.
Yeah.
Then I'll have a spot where the Gasterias are there.
Yeah.
And then the Crassulas section. Mm-hmm. Anna?
That's awesome.
And then the miscellaneous. I always have to have a miscellaneous part. You know?
Well, yeah.
It's like in my shop. I got a miscellaneous screw
nuts
drawer,
and bolts, yeah.
Miscellaneous bolts, miscellaneous metal parts, miscellaneous plastic parts, and then miscellaneous parts in general.
Hey, here's a question for you, just because we're thinking about your shop. Is it just right on the side of your shop is your fig tree?
Yes.
Has it come through okay?
Oh, it's beautiful. And Ken, I've got about 6 figs, the early figs.
Oh, the ones that made it
through. The buds made it through the winter, and they're developing nicely. Mm-hmm. I'll have a nice crop of late figs, but I will have 6 early figs.
Nice.
And I'm going to put them on my cereal when they are come to fruition. Yeah.
Sounds good. Definitely.
I love figs. They have an interesting texture, a fig.
Oh, yeah, very tasty.
However, tasty. They're really good.
You know, I should actually just talk a little bit about my planter webinar that's coming up.
Yes.
I have a planter webinar that was originally scheduled for today. So anybody listening, it's not happening today. It was postponed until next Saturday at 1 p.m. And this is all about your planters and doing up planters. We're just on the verge of that right now. The first week of May is sort of when we start thinking about it. We have to be a little careful putting annuals outside. Some of them are very sensitive to the cold. But some people just plant them out anyway, and often they'll do okay, and sometimes they'll do fabulous. What I would say, though, is that if you tune into my webinar, you can go to growercoach.com and just click on the button up in the left-hand corner, which says Learning, and typically you will see webinars there, and you can click on the webinars, and then you're in, and it's going to be probably the last webinar of my series through this spring. But I will be having more webinars as the season goes on. I want to do some more plant identification webinars for some of the landscapers out there, and for anybody who's really keen on plant identification. But check it out, growercoach.com, and just click on that learning button, and you can also click on webinars and check out the planters and hanging baskets for spectacular results. There you go. That's my tips and plants again on the growercoach.com.
Yeah, there you go. We're going to have to take that break for the news at the 9 o'clock break. We've got Eric waiting online. We will definitely come back to you, Eric, as soon as we come back with more AM 1150. Well, here we are. We're back again, and just got a text from my good friend Alan Reed, and I think he's out in his tractor with no clothes on. Anyway, because it's naked gardening. It could be naked farm day today, too. Mm-hmm. Eric, good morning. How are you this morning?
You guys, how's it going today?
Good.
Just wondering when you said the figs. Just when you said that, what come to mind, I said about the fig Newton. Mm-hmm. How did that come to be? That's like the apples, whatever else their names are given to.
Well, Fig Newton is a brand name, or not a brand name perhaps, but it's a cookie. It's a Fig Newtons, right? You
made with figs.
It's a Newton made with figs.
There you go.
But it's just called Fig Newton. It has really no connection to the actual plant, I don't think. It's
No, I'm just curious how the name came about.
The Newton?
Yeah.
I don't know. It maybe somebody can answer that that's listening, because I've never even thought about how it came about. I just remember eating them.
She'll know.
I just remember eating them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're pretty good. I haven't had that for.
They are good, and then you have a fig Newton, and then you have an Oreo, and then you know.
Oh yeah. I was curious when you said fig. I thought, oh, fig Newton.
Yeah. Well, have you ever had a ripe fresh fig?
No.
Well, Eric, you're going to have to keep in touch with me, because I'd like to share one with you someday.
Good. I do the parks on Gushingen there. I'm right by your place.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Maybe you can trade some figs for some wine.
Well, that sounds like a good trade to me. Okay.
Perfect.
Sounds good. Talk to you
Eric.
later.
Thanks for the call.
Thanks,
Take care.
Eric. Take care. Bye-bye. Yeah, those fresh figs. There's just nothing like a fresh fig when you check them every day and you just see how they're doing. You just touch them lightly and you can feel when they start to soften up a little bit, and they just hit that perfect ripeness.
There's quite a story and a thing behind how the fig is pollinated. You know?
Yeah.
Something to do with an insect crawling inside.
It's a little fruit fly, or a little wasp, I think it actually is what it is. Yeah. Tiny, tiny little wasp, and flies in the end of the fig itself is like a flower, is like the flower, and then the inside is the ovary, and that's where the little fly goes inside and does its thing, and while it's in there nesting, it's pollinating. But I don't think they're pollinated in this climate.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we have the right species.
Yeah. So, in other words, you'll still have the fruit, but it won't get pollinated.
Right. You don't.
So the seeds would not be viable.
Yeah, well, I don't even know if they would have seeds. But do you ever notice
seeds,
there's little
tiny seeds in it?
Or would they be called pseudo seeds?
Yeah,
they're non-fertilized.
They're not fertilized.
Mm-hmm. But the ones, I think when you buy a fig Newton, for example, and you get those little crunchy little seeds in there, those ones are pollinated most likely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you,
it's a mystery.
It's a great plant, and the neat thing is, on Naked Gardening Day, if it was later, you could use a fig leaf, in appropriate spots on the body, just to.
There's no fig leaves now, so
no, that's the problem.
No hiding.
It's lack of fig leaves out there to cover up. But anyway,
they're coming soon though. Like we're going to have lots of leaves, and it is quite a treat to look out the window and actually see leaves on the trees. It's been a long winter, but it's just lovely to look out and see the green, in the valley. And all we need is a little bit more rain. I think that would be good to get a few good downpours, just to kind of get us into check a little bit of where we should be.
Yeah, we really need some
rain.
We need some rain. We got to get out there and do the rain dance.
Yep.
Look at we got Mojo going last night. The lawn was quite long. I got a picture. I got a picture of the lawn after Mojo did his best, ran out of juice, and went back to his docking station, and he's back at it again today.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like you didn't have him on autopilot.
Well,
because would he not just naturally just come out a couple times a week and just check? Or? Is that what he does?
Well, here's the deal. That's what the lawn looks like after he's been over once.
Hold it up to the mic.
It looks like a hay field that's partially cut. It's really quite something, because the lawn was quite long.
Oh yeah, it looks like it's.
It's going to take a little while for him to really get it under control.
Mm-hmm.
However, he will. He's been through this before.
Yep.
He just plows through and gets her done, and then once he gets it under control, he comes out every second day and does his little thing.
Yep. Keeps it perfect.
The one thing you got to watch: don't leave hoses out.
Oh yeah,
because I got 3 places in my really good hose. I got a 100-foot long hose that fits nicely.
Not that good of a hose anymore, is it?
It's a thin one, and it fits into my reel at the back.
Oh,
It's 100 feet. Mm-hmm. Normally, that reel will only take a 50-footer, but it's a narrow enough hose that takes the 100-footer.
Oh, there you go.
So anyway, I unfortunately left it out a couple of times when Mojo was out. Mm-hmm. He makes little tiny little slices in the hose, because these are little razor blades he's got.
Yeah.
And they tiny little slices, so I've had to do a couple of repairs.
So all your first-time listeners, Mojo is a robotic lawnmower.
It's a Husqvarna Automower. The Husqvarna auto mower, and I'm telling you, Ken, people laugh when I tell them about it sometimes. It's not a laughing matter. It's a good thing. And my wife, Donna, she said, "Oh, no, why you want to have?" I said, "Well,
it's fun.
It's fun. It's a topic of conversation. We're sitting out there around the fire pit in an evening, and maybe with some folks, not this year, but we have done. We sit around there, and we are sitting there, and all of a sudden, the automower comes out. We call him Mojo, and he comes out and with his headlights on, and people say, "What the heck's that?" I said, "Well, it's Mojo." And, there you go.
That's
Lots
funny,
of fun.
Yeah. Well, there you go. But it's one of the things with that system is that if you can mow a lawn more than once a week, you get a much nicer lawn. If you can just keep trimming and trimming and trimming, it just gets so thick and nice. And that's how the golf courses really have great success. Right. And especially on the golf greens, they do it every single morning. They have to trim that green, and it just keeps it so dense. It's just beautiful. So, for people who want to have a lower lawn, something that's short, you have to mow it more regular. You should mow it at least twice a week. Yeah.
And not only you can set the height, of course, with it too. But we haven't fed the lawn in the 3 years we've had Mojo. We haven't fed the lawn
because Mojo mulch mows.
It's greener.
Right?
Yeah. Well, it just takes 1/8 of an inch off.
Right.
Just takes 1/8 of an inch off and just leaves it there, and it all goes back down into the thing, and it feeds the lawn. It's nitrogen.
Yeah.
Feeds the lawn.
Absolutely.
It's an amazing deal.
Process. Well, I know that some of the sports fields, I've heard this through the grapevine, that a lot of them are doing twice a week mowings, right? And so that helps it to stay thick and healthy and fend off the traffic a bit,
The more you mow it. It's just like, some folks that have cedar hedges that they trim. If you trim those babies 2-3 times a year, you got one tight cedar hedge.
Yeah, and 5 times is even better.
Yeah.
Once a month for hedging.
Yeah.
And, that's what we call a true hedge. Hedges that you just plant and you just walk away and leave them, that's a hedge row. It's not a real hedge. Hedges are trimmed and sheared and babied and tapered, so they're narrower at the top, and they just grow super thick and healthy. And that's because of shearing.
I have a book written by the government of Canada, back in the Agricultural Department of Canada, back in the day, back in the early part of the 20th century. And it's all about hedges. I'm going to get to that because we do have a couple of minutes left, and we want to talk to Sandy here before we take the break. Good morning, Sandy.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What do you know about hascaps?
Hascaps. They're yummy and delicious.
I've been reading about them that they're really easy to grow because they don't have the acid need.
Yeah, well, they'll adapt to these soils pretty well that we have here in the Okanagan because we don't have much acid at all, actually. And they're fine. They're very, very tough. Many of the species are native to sort of northern areas, so the cold doesn't bother them. It's just it's interesting because I've had several clients who have them. And some of them are having screaming success, and they're loaded with berries and really long producers, and they produce quite early in the season and really nice, beautiful fruit. And then other people are really getting almost no fruit whatsoever. And even though they have multiple, like you need more than one variety, so you get cross-pollination is one of the keys. But I'm sort of wondering that that the people who are not having success, it's got to be a pollination issue, so maybe they have the wrong varieties side by side. And so I'll need to learn more about that, I guess.
So I've never actually had one, I don't believe, and it sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, they're sold at the farmers markets, I know, and because there's growers around, and they're so delicious and apparently very nutritious. A lot of vitamins in the hascaps.
So how would you find out, like, if you need more than one variety, they'd probably have to be the same time blooming?
Yeah, that just needs a bit more research. Yeah, it would. That's what it is. If some bloom later than the one that's, let's say, if they're not blooming at the same time, they're not going to be pollinating each other. So there's a lot of different varieties available. And so I would just say that, you need to try to match them up. And that's the only thing I can think of. So I need to do more research on it. I'm not a specialist on hascaps, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But they are a honeysuckle. That's interesting. They're a fruiting honeysuckle.
So do they vine then?
No,
bush.
Shrubby.
Shrub.
There's many actual shrubby forms of honeysuckles.
That's right.
As well as the vining ones, yeah.
All right.
Lonicera.
Planning on trying to put that in here.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool idea, and just because the fruits are quite nice and big and juicy, and boy, they're good.
Okay, we're going to move on.
Thanks a bunch.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the call,
Thanks,
Sandy.
Sandy. Yep, take care.
And we will take a short break now. We've got Pam waiting for us, and as soon as we come back on air, we will talk to Pam when we come back with more AM 1150. Well, we are back with you, and we have joining us Pam. Good morning, Pam.
Good morning. Good morning, Ken and Don.
So this is the Pam that I was visiting the other day and saw all your mason bees and your wonderful garden beds, and you're doing a great job, Pam.
Thank you. I appreciate you stopping by. It's always fun to share ideas, and we can't do everything we want to do in our own yard, it seems. I always have dreams and visions of things that I can't accomplish because of size or scope or whatever, but it is kind of fun to focus on what does work. And I just wanted to follow up on that call, the gal that called in about the hascap bushes. And Ken, you mentioned about obviously needing a couple of different varieties and pollination being a key if you're wanting fruit. That's always the case. And I guess I happen to have a couple of hascap bushes I got about 4 years ago. I have enjoyed increasing crops each year, each successive year, because as the plants get bigger, everything gets better.
Nice.
The one thing I think might be a key is you do need early pollinators for early berries, because my flowers are already being pollinated. There's already flowers on the bushes, and they're going to be giving me fruit next month. So I think one of the keys is to provide, if you think that pollination might be a source of the crux of the problem of not having enough produce, just to be able to provide more nesting places and more other plants that encourage pollinators to stop by. Because I'm thinking, I don't know how all the pollinators look and see their target sites, but I'm thinking the more you can attract to your yard, the greater the chances they're going to lit onto some of the flowers that you have that you want to produce fruit
from. You bet. Do you have, are your hascaps starting to bud and flower already, or?
They have been. I've been watching the bumblebees, the wasps, and the mason bees all visiting in turn. I'd say for at least 2 weeks now, maybe 3. So I think that's really quite early for flowers, because there aren't a lot of flowers of any kind. Tulip bulbs and things, but you know what I mean? Like, it's not like it's the bursting of blooms right now. And it's pretty great. I was out there putting some compost in my raised beds, and I realized, what's that buzzing? Because bumblebees are notoriously, they're not sneaky at all. They couldn't sneak up on anybody because they're so loud.
They're pretty loud. Yeah.
And so I turned and I noticed, and of course the flower of a hascap is not super significant. You can see it, but it's quite small. And to watch this bumblebee light onto this flower, it just drooped, and the whole branch dropped a few inches, and I thought, is this actually going to work, or is it going to pull the flower off?
Yeah. How do those bumblebees even fly? They're so huge, and their wings are little tiny wings.
I know. Apparently the physics books say they can't, but the bees can't read, so they're okay with that.
That's cool. And I'll tell you, I've really thoroughly enjoyed, even though they weren't very active because it was a rainy kind of a dull cooler rainy day that I was there. But they definitely, I got some pictures I just showed Ken of that one mason bee that was just literally covered in pollen. So he'd been around. He'd been out and about.
Exactly. They're finding pollen, and I'm suspecting they're probably even visiting trees, they don't
maples.
really care. It's going to be flowers. Yeah, exactly.
Maples and willows.
One other thing, before I have to run, I probably have other callers. want to put a bug in people's ear if they're interested. This is just a little plug for our Hands and Service Living Salad project coming up in a couple weeks. We could use a few more planters, volunteers, and a few more delivery driver volunteers. And all of the details are on our website, which is www.handsinservice.ca, or people can call our office if they can't navigate or don't know how to navigate the website. There are sign-up links on the website under our Living Salad Project. The project is happening May 12th and 13th. So we're open to people that would like to plant. We could use a few more planters and a few more delivery drivers. We're trying to deliver about 500 planters.
There you go. Now, Pam, I've got a number here, but it's your number.
The office number is 250-861-5465. There'll be nobody there answering until Monday, but if someone wants to call on the weekend, they can leave a message, and we'll get back to them on Monday with their questions.
5465. That's a good number, eh? Like 5465. Easy to remember. Mine is a palindrome. It's the same forward as it is backwards. It's 8786878. And so that is cool. It goes back. Yeah, my buddy Lee Moran said, "Oh, that's a palindrome."
Okay, we better say the whole number over because now we'll.
Yeah, everybody's all confused. Give us the number again, Pam, before you go.
Okay, to inquire about the Hands and Service Living Salad Project on May 12th and 13th, we're looking for volunteers. The number is 250-861-5465.
Perfect.
Right on, Pam. We always love to hear from you. You take care.
Yeah.
Thank you. You too.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. There you go. It's a fabulous cause for sure. Wonderful.
You betcha. And just before we go to take another break here at the bottom of the hour, and waiting for your calls, of course, we're welcoming your calls, 250-862-2525. All those phone numbers being thrown around. The history of World Naked Gardening Day, Ken. This holiday was created by Mike Story and Jacob Gabriel as a body freedom collaboration project and introduced in Nude and Natural in 2005. This is a nudist magazine. After the idea was introduced to the public, it quickly gained momentum and began to grow outwards into an almost organic manner. Now it is celebrated by nudists all over the world who want to enjoy this holiday. Now, it wasn't too uncomfortable this morning to be out there, and so they chose May, the first Saturday in May, to have this. I don't know how long you want to do it, but it's kind of fun to just whatever.
Yeah, I guess if you're living up north in the Yukon or something, you may not be participating.
Might be a little tough up north. Anyway, if you go to the website, tips for successful nude gardening and all sorts of things, celebrating World Naked Gardening Day, all this stuff. And then we get down to the Okanagan Landscape Association online plant sale. This is what I don't know if it ties together. I don't think it does. But this is happening next week, but the pickup day will be on May 8th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Just a minute. Now, it's an online thing, an online plant sale. And there's all sorts of things. We had a great guest last week talking about it. Is it something? Do you recall? Is it something people can do today? Even we'll look at that.
You have to go to the website.
Yeah, we're gonna go
to OXA. That's the Okanagan Landscape Association .org. Yeah. And you can learn all about that, or just Google OXA, and you can learn more about buying plants online.
Right on. And so the pickup date is next Saturday. But anyway, we're going to take a short break now, and I might do a little bit more homework on that to make sure that it's still active. I think it is. And, we will be back with more AM 1150 Garden. Well, we are back with you, and I just looked up the website, the OXA website, and it is still open to purchase today by non-members. Up until a couple of days ago, it was just members only, but now it's non-members, open to non-members. easy to become a member, and it'd probably be wise if you're interested in that type of gardening. Then that would be a good thing to do, is be a member. However, a lot of them sold out. I would say, I'm going to suggest that, it looks like about, I'm going to say 75 to 80% of the plants have been sold out, but there's certainly lots of great ones still there. Lots of sempervivums, the hens and chicks, lots of persicaria, the fleece flower, and lamb's ears, stachys, and delosperma. Oh, that's sold out. All sorts of plants. There's a lot of stonecrop, a lot of sedums. Anyway, that's what I'm telling you. Just go to the website and see what you can do, because you can buy online. And we are going right back to the phone lines and talk to Addie. Good morning, Addie.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Oh, how are you?
We're both well here and enjoying this beautiful weather. It's a beautiful Saturday. Yep.
Okay. Is wipeout the same as any other weed killer?
That's
Wipeout?
Roundup.
Wipeout is called Wipeout Max.
Wipeout. No, Wipeout is more of a sort of a not as chemical as.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. It's got various. It's like Safer's product. It has fatty acids, and it has also vinegar, I think, in there. Yeah.
You read the guarantee on the label.
If you look closely on the label, you see what they say, guarantee, and it'll tell you what's in it. And it's something that burns the tops off the leaves, or the foliage off but it's not as good on perennial weeds as it might be. It burns the tops off, doesn't kill the root out.
So really, Roundup would be better.
Roundup is the key guy. Yep.
Okay. My other question is, I made a little boo-boo yesterday. I planted a butterfly bush, and in my haste to plant it, I mixed the soil with landscape mulch instead of oval grower.
Well, that landscape mulch is okay as long as it's composted, which is, I'm sure it is. So that's not going to hurt anything. That's very similar. That's very similar to nursery mix.
Yeah, it was from last year, so I didn't realize which bag I was taking it from. I thought it was a little coarse, but then I thought, oh well, maybe it's just me. So, is it too late or too early to put poinsettias and amaryllises out during the day and bring them in at night?
I've been leaving all that stuff outside now.
All night?
Yep, I've all my tropicals, everything's outside now. But I'm watching the weather. I mean, I look at my weather channel every day and say, what's it going to do? If it said to me it's going to go down to 1, I'd probably quickly bring everything in. But so far, it's only going down to like 5, 4, maybe a little bit into 3.
Yeah, so know your neighborhood. Know your own neighborhood, because if it is still freezing, like on the hillsides here, you could run into trouble.
Yeah. Where you are, Addie, don't listen to me, because where you are is a different place than where I am.
Yeah. It seems a little bit warmer here sometimes. I know when I leave here, like the other day I left here, it was 17 on my car thermometer, and when I got down into around the bridge, it was 15. So I'm not sure whether it's just warm pockets or whatever we're going through, but if these plants are in sort of they're on the deck, and the deck has a roof over it. Are they sort of protected a little bit more than they would be if they were in the open?
I think you're good to go there, Addie. But like I say, just watch the weather. Here's my next 14 days evening, nighttime temperature. I won't do the day. I'll just do the nights. Okay, starting tomorrow, Sunday, 4, 6, 3, 9, 7, 4, 3, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, 4. I'm not bringing my plants in.
No.
No.
If I'm planting my tomato in a pot, I've got one tomato especially that I'm planting in a pot. I could plant it in that pot. No. Excuse me, in that pot, and bring it in at night.
Right. Well, Ken's going to clarify, because he's tramping at the bit here. I can tell.
Well, with tomatoes, they have sort of a minimum night temperature of about 8 degrees Celsius. And so you can go a little cooler than that, but that's sort of that's where the plants are going to be comfortable making it through the night. They can go down to 5. I have mine in my geodesic dome, and they're surviving in there, and it goes down to about 2 or 3 degrees in there at night because I don't have heat. And they're not happy in those conditions. They're starting to wilt. And even though the days are beautiful and warm and humid, and they have fertilizer and they have everything that they need in that dome, they just don't like the night temperatures, so they're kind of wilty looking. And so I don't know if I've really done them a big favor, but we'll see. They don't have much choice. They have to live where I put them.
Well, I've got 2 tomato plants out. One, I put my heating cable wrapped around the hole before I planted it, and the other one is no heating cable. And definitely the one that without the heating cable is showing a little wilty signs. So there you go. Addie, we're going to have to... Sorry?
I just want to say something. I was really surprised because my potato vine, actually, the tips of the leaves got a little bit nipped about a week ago. And I thought it was a hardy enough plant.
Oh, sweet potato vine's a heat lover.
Oh, is it? Oh,
yeah.
so I should be... It's like a tomato then.
Very similar to the same family, actually. Well, not same family,
thanks
but
a lot, guys.
close. Okay, you're welcome.
Thanks
for the call, Addie.
Thanks
Appreciate
for calling.
it.
Bye-bye.
What we are going to do right now is go right to Edwin. Good morning, Edwin.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm down in the lower Mission, kind of like the Mission Creek Golf Course.
Yep.
What can I be planting in the garden right now?
Oh, well, vegetables?
Just the usual stuff, like I'm not growing fancy things, but, your tomatoes and lettuce and cukes and zucchini and squash and that kind of, what could I be putting in the ground now?
Yeah, I was just going to mention about the, all the cold crop stuff is that we've been planting those since probably about the 20th of March, and that includes everything from the cabbage family, all aspects of cabbage, including radishes, and all your lettuce groups and spinaches and peas and even carrots can go out, potatoes, all that kind of stuff.
Onions.
Onions are really good early. And right now, we're just in the transition period, so we're not quite warm enough for the warm crops. So the warm crops that we plant probably in another week or two, it looks like there's going to be some nice warm nights coming up. Then you can switch into those things like cucumbers and zucchinis and tomatoes and eggplants, the stuff that.
So zucchini and squash okay right now?
No, I'd wait a little bit for those. All that cucurbit family is they're heat lovers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And they'll shiver at night. I mean, they'll survive sometimes, but there's no advantage to getting them out early.
Yeah, they struggle.
Carrots can go in?
You can sow your carrots now? Absolutely.
And what was the other one I was going to ask? Leeks?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Leeks are good. Yeah, put them out.
Don't take them out in the boat, though.
Pardon me?
I say don't take those out in the boat.
Yeah, that's one of the rules.
A leak in the boat.
Out the last time I sank, so.
There you go.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Hey, you're welcome. Thanks,
luck.
Edwin. Take care.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Yeah,
the old joke. Every year, when we had the garden center, there was a couple of things that I waited for every year.
And that was one.
And
of them.
somebody buying leeks, I said, just don't forget, don't take those out in the boat.
Hey, I know what the next one is.
And the next one is
strawberries.
Yeah. The question every spring?
Yeah.
I always get somebody said, "Do you use manure on your strawberries?" And I said, "Well, I prefer whipping cream."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
Everybody's laughing, hopefully. Well, we're going to take a break a little bit early because there's no callers waiting, and we might as well take it early. We sometimes do that at the end of the show, or we've got one more segment to go, and it gives you time to get in and have a conversation with Ken and I this morning on gardening. So we'll be back with more AM 1150. Well, Ken brought me another present today, and I'm really, really pleased with it. It's a tiger tooth Haworthia.
But it was originally from Wendy.
Oh, it was from Wendy. Well,
yeah.
Thank you, Wendy. And it's not even my birthday. It's just...
No.
Yeah.
It's just because every time we see the cool plants, we think of you.
Oh, man. I've got to have the two of you in some evening or something. And to look at my wall of plants. And,
I want to see all those Haworthias and what are the
Gasterias, Haworthias, Crassulas, and Sansevieras. Those are the four main groups. They're the four main groups. And I've given them a good soaking, taken them out of the greenhouse, put them on my shelves. I don't have to water them now for a month.
Yeah. Hey, do you think the succulents are going to be as popular this year as they were last year? Because remember last year?
More so.
Even more.
It's a big deal because they're so easy to look after, Ken. And they're very forgiving.
Right.
As a matter of fact, if you look after them too well, they rot.
Yeah, so you got to just you got to make sure they thoroughly dry out between waterings. That seems to be the key. And then we've had some that literally I've actually killed a couple by drying them out too much. That's how dry they were. So it's quite a while.
Oh, I've killed succulents by not enough water. There's no question about that.
So it's that rhythm, isn't it? Though it's just getting that sweet spot where they dry literally right out. They're bone dry. Then you wait a day. Maybe wait 2 days, then you water them. Then you go again. Don't water them again until
you water them really well, too.
Yeah, submerging them sometimes. Yeah. Interesting.
We're going to the phone lines, and we welcome your calls, 250-862-2525. We've got another 15 minutes left on the Garden Show here or so. And we welcome to Yvonne. Welcome to the show, Yvonne.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
We're well.
I guess you've been asked that so many times this morning.
Well, how can you be not well on a morning like this?
I know, exactly. You got to be really grateful. It's beautiful out there. We live in a wonderful place. Yeah. Hey, now that you're talking about succulents for a second, I have a succulent that I bring in every winter. But what's happened is this stem, it's a really big leaf succulent, and I'm sorry because I can't remember the name of it, but it's got a really long, almost trunk-like now, because the trunk part has gotten really quite big. And I keep transplanting it, but it just kind of looks funny because the trunk is probably 12 inches long, and then you have the leaves all on the top of it, almost like it's starting to look like a little tree.
Well, if you want to keep it that way, you can. But if you want to deal with it, and you take the top and the top maybe 4 or 5 inches of trunk, and you get some nice potting soil, open mix, cut that off. And then plunk that top into that potting soil, into a pot. Okay. Give it a good soaking, and then don't water it again for a long time. Let it get dry, like Ken was saying, quite dry between. And then cut the other plant, the mother plant, down low, and they'll stool out and shoot more plant.
Oh, awesome. And then what I've noticed at the base of it, at the soil level, is there are little leaves coming up just at the base of the soil.
Yeah, you cut it off, and they'll really push.
Oh, awesome. Okay, then that's great. Yeah. Okay, and then did I hear right that it's okay to put potatoes in now?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then, sorry, I didn't quite get what you were saying about the leeks. I missed. Was it a joke part?
It's just a joke. I've always told people when they buy leeks, I said, don't take those out in the boat.
Don't take. Okay, got it.
Because you'll get a leak. You don't want to have a leak in the boat.
Okay, got it. Now I get it. Just took me a while.
Yeah, we need to puppet with that one.
Yeah, I got to work on the delivery on that one.
No, it was. I didn't hear the consonant B, the boat part. So I'm like, what is he talking about? Just that I just didn't catch that part. Oh, okay. And sorry, one more quick question here. I've noticed on one of my vegetable boxes outside, and it's probably 4 feet by 8 feet, that it's got a little thin white layer on it. So would that be like a mold or something?
Well, it's definitely a mold, a fungal thing, but it's probably not a plant pathogen. No. It's probably just living on the soil, which is part of nature and whatever. It's not attacking anything. It's trying to break the soil down or something. It's hard to say what it is, but I don't believe it'll be an issue. Right?
Okay. Yeah. So it's not like I have to take it off. And it is like I just did add some compost and stuff to it, so maybe that's partially what was in there.
Stir it up, get the air to it, But, I don't think it's an issue.
Okay, awesome.
Yep, you betcha.
Okay, thanks, guys.
You're very welcome.
Okay, bye-bye.
Calling, bye-bye.
Yeah.
That's the thing, Ken. There's so darn many little, not critters necessarily, but, pathogens of... not pathogens, but organisms. I'm trying to
organisms.
Lots of organisms, and most of them are quite friendly and are necessary. It's like
helpful.
You talk about our gut. In humans, they got organisms in there that are good organisms that are working.
Yeah, keeps you alive.
Exactly.
But when you're dealing with rotting, composting things, you will see different fungi that show up from time to time, and it's just nature doing its thing. The only thing that's maybe white and a bit crusty you might think about is salts that might build up, which we sometimes get. And it sometimes comes in certain types of compost, like the Black Diamond Peat is a
remember
beautiful
that.
product.
Yeah.
It's just so beautiful. It's rich in nutrients, but it often goes crusty, like it gets. It's kind of salty, you know. But that dilutes over time. The plants still seem to love it.
That's a pretty good product.
Yeah.
We want to welcome Wendy to the show. Good morning, Wendy.
Hello.
This is our Wendy.
This is your Wendy. I was just wanting to mention that the last lady who was going to cut the top, that you suggested she cut the top off that succulent, great idea, stick it in the dirt, but don't water it for about a week.
Oh, yeah. Let it callus over a little bit.
Yeah, or just let it sit on the counter for a week or so, and then stick it in the water, the soil and water it. But they don't want water right away as soon as they've been cut.
Yeah, because of
they need that dry time.
Wendy, great advice. Dad used to do that with the geraniums.
Yep.
With the geranium cuttings, let them lay out there till they almost wilted, and then when you
we
put
have
them in,
jade plants that same thing. We bump it, a piece would fall off. We let it lay on the counter, stick it in the dirt, and away you go.
It starts rooting into the counter.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, have a good
Thank
day.
you, Wendy. That's great advice. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, that's what we do. We share advice on the radio like this, talking over the back fence. It's very, very, very cool thing.
Yeah, and that is the thing with succulents. Sometimes you let them dry before you
Before you root
them.
You know, in the back of my mind, as I was giving that advice, and I said water it right away.
You were saying it in your head.
In my head, was saying, Don, no. Yeah. So
some of them, when a plant is vigorous, they often just take off and grow. You know, when they're vigorous, they're excited about spring. And right now, lots of things are excited. And that's why this is a good time to do transplanting, moving, propagating, all that stuff. You've got your best odds of success right now.
Ken, I recommend a plant quite often called Helianthus helianthoides. It's a false sunflower.
Yeah.
Tall, 5-6 feet tall.
Blooms crazy.
All summer long. Donna cuts these things. I can't find it. You know, a lot of the nurseries and garden centers don't handle it.
No.
So I'm helping one landscaper out with chopping some out of my own garden because it's quite easy to do that.
Yep.
And same with the bishop's cap, the epimedium.
Epimedium, yeah.
It's a good plant, and I think it's quite drought tolerant. And what you do, though, in this, and I've learned this recently in the last couple of years, is you got to shear it, right, mow it to the ground every spring.
Yeah.
And all that new stuff comes up, because in the winter it gets a little bit damaged.
They're very pretty in the spring when the new leaves come on, the little epimediums.
Epimedium, yep.
Yeah, very nice.
And there is a common name to that one.
Yeah, bishop's
cap. But another common name is horny goatweed.
Oh, really?
Horny goatweed, because they found the male goats
would
be, after they were eating this epimedium that was growing naturally somewhere where it grows naturally, the goats would come back and they'd be all frisky. So there you go.
There you
horny
go.
Goatweed.
Learn something new every day.
On the garden show, you learn something new every day. Well, we've got a few minutes left here, and to chat about things. Ken, what have you got going on?
We've got our webinar I was mentioning. It's coming up next Saturday. That's the 8th of May, and it is at 1 p.m., and that's on planters and how to have a great success with your outdoor planters and hanging baskets, and some ideas about the containers themselves, the plants, the soils, the fertilizers, and even the sort of the design itself and the different options and sun and shade and all that kind of thing. And some really, I like to talk a lot about the exotic planters, because they're kind of fun. They're a little, I'm going to say they're a little bit expensive to build, but you can really build some cool planters if you're willing to spend a few bucks. And I would suggest, I just put a video out just yesterday, I believe, and it's on planting shade planters. And it's on our Grower Coach channel on YouTube. And I'd recommend just checking that one out just because it's kind of fun. I'm just building some planters actually for some clients and just putting together some stuff. Almost instantaneous beauty. Well, it is instant. And that's why I call it my instant shade planter video. So check that out. It's really really interesting and talk about flowers. It's just gorgeous, and foliage. And I actually mentioned the names of the plants too, so you can check that out and get some good ideas. And enjoy. So check out our Grower Coach YouTube channel and go to growercoach.com if you want to actually join up with us next Saturday and participate in that planter webinar. It's always fun. Lots to learn.
There you go. Now, let's see. We've got one more caller that can fit in here, and that's Linda. Good morning, Linda.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I have a quick question. Is there a website that has a calendar that lists, like a style-like calendar that will list the growing times and when to plant and that sort of thing for the Okanagan specifically?
I've got a sheet that I put out, and it's somewhat comprehensive, but it's not the ultimate thing. But it does give you the number of days between putting a seed in and harvest, and how, the months you should put in certain seeds and whatever. You could email me, and I could send you that. But I think if you, what else?
Yeah, there isn't really, and that's something I'm not aware of one.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose it's something that actually, Don, you and I should actually get together on that and produce something like that.
Yeah.
Just because there are lots of plants that you can get in very early into the vegetable garden, and especially here in the Okanagan, we have such a nice growing season. But it's very unique here. It's unique to the valley, different than other areas. So you're right on trying to find that. What's recommended here
in the valley, because if you just Google that, you could get something that's out of Oregon or California or
never know,
or the prairies, but unique to the valley. But you're right. I can send you that. Might give you a starting point anyway. So if you email me and ask me for that chart, I will do that.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You betcha.
Don@thegardenexpert.com.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, and thank you for the call. Well, Ken, I think that just about wraps up the callers today, because we're getting close to the end here of the show, and we thank all the callers that called in today, because that's what makes the show go.
Yeah.
If there ain't no audience, there just ain't no show, is what it is.
It's the way she goes.
Chilliwack was one of their tunes, right?
Yep.
Okay, well, let's do it then. We've got a little bit of time left. I don't think we need to go right to the tips and plants of the week quite yet, but I just have a Shigo moment coming up. I got all sorts of things, and I always like to give a shout out to my Auntie Kay, who's listening to the Garden Show hopefully this morning. Auntie Kay, nice to have you on board with us on Saturday mornings, and you can listen to your nephew, because I know they're not allowed visitors in that particular place she's at, and that's a sad thing when you think of all these poor folks that have to be without visitors. But it's all going to end soon. This whole thing's going to end soon, I know it will.
The COVID thing will be under control.
You betcha.
But we have to hang in there a bit longer.
And I did have the abies as the fir family as my genera, or my genus of the week, but I'm not going to talk about that, because it is getting now to that point where we need to do the tips and plants of the week and then say goodbye. My tip of the week, it's a good time now to spray your grapes with lime sulfur dormant oil. This is a good method of controlling mildew and leafhopper. And my plant of the week is the Amelanchier alnifolia, which is the Saskatoon berry tree shrub. It's a native here, not known as Saskatoons in the States, because they don't know where Saskatoon is.
Right.
They call them service berries down there, so there you go.
There you go. I also have a tip and a plant. My tip of the week is to start water conservation. Now, at this time of year, we really only need one good water soaking per week, so you can set up your irrigation for that and water well when you water, and then hold back and let things dry out a bit. It's always fine at this time of year. Temperatures are still quite mild, and the plants are doing just fine. All right, my plant of the week was the Dodecatheon media, which is a beautiful little shooting star plant. It's one of the natives of the valley here, and just a beauty. Always love to see it poking up at this time of year. And so keep your eyes peeled, but don't touch them in nature. Always go to your garden center to try to pick up these plants. Never dig them from the wilderness. That's my tips and plants this week. Remember to check growercoach.com.
Good advice, Ken. We are going to go to the Shigo moment. Dr. Shigo was the father of modern arboriculture. Ken and I both had the privilege of seeing him speak pretty much maybe just not less than a year before he passed away. But he was a giant in the industry. He wrote the books on modern arboriculture, talking about various ways decay happens in trees. And this week I pulled from his book called Tree Pithy Points, and his quote this week is, Galileo said his critics would not look through his telescope. Think about that. Galileo said his critics would not look through his telescope. They didn't believe him, is what they were saying. And on that note, we're going to say goodbye, and we will see you again next week with more AM 1150 Garden Show.